Yes, that was a remarkable film. Please help me welcome the men responsible for this movie, the writer and director, Peter Berg, the star. The star, Mark Wahlberg. And the man whose life the film is based on, Marcus Luttrell. Marcus, when you heard the film was going to be made of your life and of the book, was there a concern or a fear that you had about a film being made of this story?
Yes, sir, absolutely. Just with the constraints that you have taking a story that happened in real life, much less putting it in a book, trying to adapt it into a movie, and money, time, all that stuff like that, everything that happened up on the mountain today, although all of it was very critical, there was only so much that you could put into the movie for everyone to watch, and picking and choosing those battles was a difficult process, but we scrapped it down to the nuts and bolts, and it is what it is. It's combat, sir.
What was your first conversation with Marcus like, Peter?
Well, I think we were talking about last night. My strategy, the first time I met him, I knew that I wanted to do this movie very badly, and he's a pretty intense dude. And I got a brief meeting with him, and he kind of looked at me like he's looking right now. And I remember that my dad told me that it's better to be quiet and thoughtful than to speak and remove all doubt. So I didn't say much. And I said that I loved his book and that it touched my heart, and that I had a film, The Kingdom, that I just finished editing. And I said, maybe you could look at it, and if it's something that you feel is appropriate and you connect to it, I would love to come meet with you. If not, it was a pleasure meeting you, and have a nice day. and about 4 or 5 hours later, I got a call saying, meet me at this restaurant at, I don't know, 7 o'clock. Excuse me, I have the cold. I know a lot of you do. And I've heard the coughing. It's horrible. And we ended up talking.
I got kids. I got 4 kids.
Doesn't a lot of people have this cold? I heard everybody coughing. And Marcus and I spent 6 hours maybe talking. And at the end, he said, okay, you're going to do this. And you're not going to fuck it up. And I said, yeah, yes, sir.
Marcus, what do you remember about that first meeting?
That's about right, sir.
I guess that's the end of that conversation. That's what comes from working for a nonprofit organization. Mark, this kind of fits in with something, the movies you've done based on real-life characters, The Fighter and Perfect Storm, they kind of both been about guys who've been tested. And is that something that kind of you find attracted to when it comes to making movies based on real-life things?
Yeah, I just, I've always loved the idea and the challenge of playing real-life people, especially regular guys who have had to go through extraordinary things. This being a very different case because Marcus is not an ordinary guy. He's an extraordinary guy who survived the impossible. And so I knew that was a much bigger challenge. I remember Pete asking me if I wanted to do the movie, me saying yes before I really thought about what that entailed. And then I knew it was just about, sucking it up and doing whatever I had to do to become as close to the real thing as I possibly could.
What was your biggest fear about doing this? Because it's a really big bite of the apple in terms of playing the emotions in this.
Yeah, I just, you just want to get it right. You want to get it right. You want to make Marcus proud. You want to do the families of Danny Dietz and Axe and Mike Murphy and the rest of the guys who never got to come home or walk off of that mountain. You wanted to do them justice, and that's a huge responsibility.
Pete, I was saying to the audience before we got started here that your movies, almost all of them, in some way or another, about people being tested through action, basically kind of realizing character through action. What is it about that that appeals to you so much?
Excuse me.
I'll share the
Yeah,
microphone
check,
with
check,
you,
check.
Elvis. We'll share our microphone, and you let
I
him
took-
hack all over that one.
Hacking all over that damn thing.
I took a
I don't have any antibiotics on me to give you
took a
to
Z-Pad.
combat this thing.
I'm on antibiotics.
Yeah, you're not supposed to drink with those, by the way.
I what?
You're not supposed to drink alcohol while on antibiotics. It defeats the purpose. But that's okay. I'll share the microphone with Elvis.
I
There's so much love on the stage right now. What can we
I,
We are brothers, and we did become brothers. So because of
Should have
that,
been on set.
there isn't anything we can't say to one another.
yeah.
There is a
thank you.
trust level and a respect and appreciation.
I've always, in part, been drawn to the psychology of people who are willing to put themselves into violent situations, situations where any reasonable human being would run as quickly as they could away from it. And there's a very, very small population of men and women who will move into that, and who, for reasons, some that I may understand, many that I don't, want to test themselves, want to cultivate concepts that seem so foreign to many of us, like patriotism, like heroism, the belief in sacrificing yourself for something greater, and those values are extremely present in Marcus and many of his teammates, many who I've met and many who you got to see in this film, who I obviously did not get to meet, but these are extraordinary men, and as an artist, I'm drawn to the psychology of people like Marcus Luttrell.
But in these movies, though, no, you don't want to get sick. I'm already been exposed to this. I'm keeping you
brave
free
man.
to make your next film, whatever. No, I'm taking the bullet for you, Mark Wahlberg.
Thank you.
Let me do that.
God bless your heart.
But in some of these cases, though, it's sort of like getting people past the idea of where fear enters the picture. And all these things has always been getting about, really was like getting past that moment of danger, just having to act on the way you've been trained. I mean, that's a really big thing for you, too, as a filmmaker, isn't it?
I don't understand the question.
Watch this. They're not listening. Getting
I
past,
understood, but I don't want to give you any more crap.
Okay. The moment,
I've given you enough already.
being in a dangerous situation, the moment where your training kicks in.
Yes.
I mean, and for most of us, we cannot imagine that moment. And then I wanted to ask you about that too, Mark. Playing somebody where you're in a situation where most of us would be terrified, and you just got to rely on training rather than your instinct. And that seems to be something that attracts you as a filmmaker.
I mean, it does. I mean, one of the things that attracted me so much about this project is, you know, there was a scene where these guys were faced with an extremely complicated decision, and they, in my opinion, would have been easily justified in killing those goat herders, and knowing that they would have all lived. I could certainly make an argument as to why that was not the right decision, but I was not on that hill, and I will never, probably in my life, ever have to make a decision that complex. And to think that one of the things that hooked me so much about Marcus's book was to the idea that these young guys, all in their early to mid-20s, are being asked to make such complicated decisions with so much riding on them, and they have such self-reliance. They only have each other to depend on. They're trying to get as much information as they can, and they're being asked to make these decisions, which are going to have massive ramifications. If they act in a certain way, or they show a lack of restraint, or show too much restraint, the price is, as you see, catastrophic. And the fact that, look, what we do, decisions I make as a director, decisions Mark, I want to speak for him, makes as an actor, not even in the same zip code as these kinds of decisions. And I felt it important to help do my bit to let people understand, certainly regardless of politics or where you fall on these last two conflicts we've been in, these guys are extraordinary human beings of a level of character that is just very, very hard to come by. And that I felt was important. The types of decision making that guys like Marcus are capable of doing is something that's in another league.
Yeah, Mark, you talk a little bit too about playing that kind of guy who has to just fall back on training and getting yourself into that place mentally where you could play that kind of guy.
Yeah, for me, it's always about preparation anyway, both physically and mentally. Unfortunately for me, I had made 3 movies leading up to Lone Survivor, and they were all very different and very challenging in different ways, and that I had to lose as much weight as possible. Then I played a bodybuilder in the Michael Bay movie Pain and Gain, where I got up to 212 pounds, and then I had to get as skinny as possible for the next movie. And then I had Pete looking at me like, man, you don't look good. You don't look like a seal. And I said, well, I'm gonna feel like a seal because I appreciate what these guys did, and I'm willing to go up on that mountain, whatever the training, whatever it called for. The great thing about it is we had not only Marcus being there, which was a huge help and also a huge amount of pressure, but we also had a number of other SEALs who were there training us leading up to the film and also there throughout the entire course of the shoot. And they had free reign. Normally when you have a consultant, you have somebody who you want to keep at arm's length, and when you want to ask a question or you need a bit of information, you'll bring them in. Kind of like, unfortunately, it's how they usually treat writers on a film, right? They'll bring them in when they need them, and then they'll kick them out and keep them as far away. Well, you were the writer-director, so I tried to keep the writer aspect of you away and just keep the director around. But with these guys, they had free reign to call BS on anything that was wrong. Even if it was in the middle of a huge action sequence that entailed helicopters and explosions and everything else, and it was going to set us back a day, a week, whatever it was, they had the right to come in and say, stop, grab you by the back of the neck, say, stop, that's wrong, do it like this. We'll do it 100 times until you get it right. And I loved having that. I encouraged them to have that freedom. Now, they never took it too far where they would start giving you line readings in an emotional moment. Once or twice, a couple of them tried. Marcus could, absolutely. Yes, sir, Marcus, sir, tell me where to stand, what to do, and how to say it. Absolutely. But it was like, it was just a different ball game. You know, they knew better than us, and we relied on them for their support to make it as authentic and realistic as possible.
Marcus, what kind of things were you telling them? What kind of things did they tend to not understand about what you guys do as SEALs?
Just like he was explaining earlier, we had there's probably 8 to 10 of us on set, and no less than 3 at any given time, just there for the actors and whatever they needed. We tend to speak our own language in our community. If you spend enough time with us, slowly, it starts with the military talk. Everybody speaks in the military, talk military, and then after that, in the teams, it goes a step further. And we just wanted to. It was actually kind of difficult in the beginning to open ourselves up to someone who wasn't in our community and allow them inside to see what we're all about. It's kind of one of those rites of passage. If you want to understand that world, you have to go through the things that we went through. That's why it's in place. But with that being said, it was so critical that these guys understood, spoke the language, walked, talked, moved, used their weapon systems, everything. Just like we would, and because of that, we stepped back, opened ourselves up, and were there for them in anything they needed, any situation. But like he was saying, we tried not to press our luck, I guess would be the best term. We didn't want to overstep our bounds because they're the pros. It was a push and pull.
But you guys are the pros too, though, and they were counting on you to keep them real.
Yes, sir. In that respect, and exactly just what you said. When it came time to do the shooting and moving and stuff like that, well, then that's when we came in and we're like, all right, you're going to listen to what we have to say, and then they took it on board. But then when Pete called action, then we stepped back and watched them do what they do best, and it was great watching them work. Professional actors, how they can adapt, and you actually watch them mold into a frogman.
But also the reason why everybody gelled so well together is because everybody was up on that mountain for the same reason, to tell that story and to do these guys justice. Every single person, from the caterers, everybody who was lugging up equipment, everybody just wanted to tell the story. They wanted to be a part of it. It was a team effort, you know. Everybody was there to help one another to get through it and to make it as good as possible. And I think we also had a couple of other special people kind of looking down on us from above, making sure that we had that extra little bit of love and magic. And I think that's why it turned out the way it is. I think that's why it comes across as being as real as it does. It's because of those elements.
One of the reasons it comes across as being so real is this thing you were kind of talking about, Marcus, that kind of really like spiritual trust, where you feel like all those actors in the movie really connected and knew each other.
Yeah, they always said, well, what did you guys do to bond? It wasn't like, well, I'd go to your house or we'd hang out. No, we were all there for the same reason. We knew those guys were brothers. We were all there for the same reason. And, you know, Ben Foster, who I had known for quite some time, is a very special guy. But like the debate that we had up on the mountain, Ben would sit there and argue with me and with Pete about a lot of things. And but that's who he is, and that's why I love him. That's why I recommended him to Pete. I knew we already had that bond, but even Taylor and Emil, we just kind of dove right in. It wasn't like, okay, well, let's go off to like Vegas and hang for a weekend to get to know each other. It was just like we just dove right in and we became brothers.
Yeah, well, talk about the casting, Peter, finding all these guys that, and you knew they had to mesh right away and feel like they'd been together and lived through the kinds of training that Marcus and his guys had been through.
Well, it started with Mark, and despite a slight size difference, and a slight, and
That's kind of you.
and
This man is a monster of a man, a giant of a man. I wouldn't say a monster because he's an angel and a teddy bear, but certainly
he's a big guy,
a giant of a man
but so
with an even bigger heart.
there's also, if you might notice, a slight regional accent difference.
Now that was another thing, man. I was damn near there to do my Texas thing, but he said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't you fucking dare do it. I said, all right, well, shit.
And,
Can't blame me for trying. I'll
so-
do it on another month. We're on the next one.
So there's that. But what I found is these guys are both tough guys. He's a tough guy, and he's a tough guy.
Hollywood tough guy.
No, Mark's a tough guy.
It's okay. It's a big difference. I've
But-
made that clear on a number of occasions.
But
I'm honest enough to admit it.
there's also an incredible sweetness to this guy and to this guy. And I've been fortunate to see both sides. And I thought that there truly are not a lot of guys in the film business that have both qualities. And Mark Wahlberg has the same qualities of, you know, legitimate masculine toughness, whatever that means, and a genuine, a
Means
big
I
heart.
don't wear makeup to the supermarket. I wear it on the set, but
Trying to be serious.
I am.
It's
Okay.
unbelievable. Fuck. Jesus. So anyway, Ben Foster. I think that Ben Foster is just one of the greatest actors working today. I think he's going to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. He does drive us crazy with a lot of questions, but he's...
Like what, for example?
Well, let me say one thing. Though.
Do
This
your
is a
Ben
great
Foster
story.
impression with the hands.
No, he does this whole thing of like understanding and no, but there was this great thing where we're lying on the ground, we're shot up, and there's mortars are about to go off, and Ben is just taking handfuls of dirt and stuffing them in his mouth, and Pete's like, "What the fuck is that?" I'm like, "Don't worry, it's good."
He
Don't
calls me
worry.
over, he's like,
"That's
Pete,
his thing."
Ben's eating dirt, Pete. But it's okay. He was
Watch him
eating-
in this take. He's gonna be great.
He was literally eating handfuls of dirt, like, and doing this.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What does that do?
Ask Ben. I don't know.
When we were driving to New Mexico from Texas, I drove up to Dallas to meet him, and that was the first time we'd ever met. Road trip. I mean, you got to be buddies with somebody to do an 8.5-hour road trip. You know what I mean? So I told him, I was like, we're gonna either like each other a lot or I'm gonna kill you. And, he goes, well, we'll see what happens. So I met up in Dallas, and he great guy, just like just like Pete was saying, but that's one of the first things I noticed especially when he was driving, because when you talk with your hands and you try and drive, it doesn't work out quite like you think it's going to, and he's just so into the part, and he reminded me that I actually have a teammate that is exactly like real animated, talks with his hands, has to do the sound effects and all that stuff like that. So it was a good time when we finally got to New Mexico. I knew I made a friend. He's a good guy.
So thank God you didn't kill him.
Yeah, no, I could have left him out in the desert because we were right in the middle of the. I actually thought about it when we were there too. I was like, I put you out here and leave you.
So Emil Hirsch, he's really little, and
He made me feel big.
and this is no exaggeration. He asked if he could play the part, and I said no because you're too little, and you're out of shape. Because he was little but fat, like skinny people that are fat. You know what I mean? Skinny fat guy, yeah. Isn't that the kind of guy? And I said, you're a skinny fat guy. And I did literally say that to him, and he got furious. And he said, well, what if I get in shape? And I said, well, I don't think you will.
How long did he train for? Months and months before you even?
But I was a huge fan, really. I loved his acting and loved Into the Wild, and really to love him, I said, you're just not in shape. And that guy, there's a guy named T.R. Goodman at Gold's Gym in Venice, and you can ask him. He was there 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and TR would call him and go, this kid's going crazy. He won't stop working out. And like a month went by, and I went down, checked him out, and he didn't have the part. He just said, I'm getting in shape. I'm going to prove you wrong. And 2 weeks later, TR, he's still down there. He's there 6, 7 hours a day working out with all these pro hockey players. 2 months into it, I actually looked at him, and he wasn't a skinny fat guy anymore. He was actually in shape. And I was so impressed with just the physical commitment. I knew he had the acting skills. That I was really thrilled to one day say after 3 months, dude, you earned it, and he did. And Taylor Kitsch is, someone who I've known since Friday Night Lights, who is a dear friend of mine, who had an interesting career trajectory, had 2 big films, John Carter and Battleship, both of which didn't really turn out well. And you're right, it's funny. Now we can laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
Wasn't funny then.
You set yourself up for that one, though, man. I mean, you gotta.
Oh, see. But in all honesty, to have Taylor, who I think is just a great actor and a wonderful man, and look, our business, we all have ups and downs, and it's I'm sure a lot of you guys are in our business. Sometimes things go great, sometimes they don't, but you got to just keep working. And Kitsch is a great example of someone who just kept working. I think he did a wonderful job in this film, and I think I found a great cast. So that's the story of the cast.
And I'm sorry, we're out of time. Let's thank these guys for being here.
Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much.